Hello friends, welcome back again to the next video. Now as I speak, we are done creating our client section. Now we're going to build our backend, which is an API or a server. We're going to first start with our controller. We are implementing architecture pattern of vertical slice layer. And now the design pattern, we are integrating SQL arrays. So in our controller, we can start working with that. Now when you want to work with the architectural pattern of a vertical slice layer, all your code are organized in features. So in yours, let's say in this, we're going to be having a create user account, login user. These are the features. And normally we're supposed to have each feature should have its own endpoint. But well, I like using controller, so I like to summon all the endpoint in one controller or more. So let's say if it's authentication, I want to have authentication controller. If it is a meeting, I want to have meeting controller. And if it is any external service, I want to have a controller for that. You can actually create an endpoint for each feature. You can do that within the features with vertical slice layer. And you can also do what I'm talking about. So let's go with my option now. Maybe later down the line, I'll show you how you can also add a specific endpoint to a specific feature when implementing this vertical slice layer. All right, so let me show my screen. So we can start with the controllers. You know that here we are having, I think, 3 controllers here, which is going to be the meeting. You're going to have the authentication, and I think you're going to have the Trilio API. There's a controller where it's going to give us access to generate a token for this. So let's go ahead and create our authentication controller. So we have one here already. So maybe we can rename this to authentication, and I'm going to say auth controller. Now with this auth controller, I want to rename this, and I want to make sure this API, because you know that in our service, we having an API in there. So we need to make sure we have that. Okay. Now I'm going to remove all this here. And then the first endpoint that we're going to create in here is to create. Now with this create endpoint, it's going to return an action result of this. So we are specifying the results type of create user response. This is coming from the shared library that we created as a response from authentication, and it's taking a payload of create user request. Now when this comes in, we're going to create this, and in here we need to inject this iSender. This iSender here, it is coming from iSender, which is sender, which is coming from the CQRS or the mediator. Now we haven't installed that package yet. Okay, so we're going to install that soon. And aside from that, when we send it, we're going to specify our command. We're going to create our command too and pass on this user model as a parameter to that. And here we're going to return a response, because with this response, we can have a state of its success. We want to make sure if it is true, then return okay with the response. In case it isn't, then do the bad request with the same response. Okay, now from the login, we need to also have same or similar with the login. We have a custom type of login response. We take in a payload of login user request, and here we cast the response, or we store the response here, and then we can check the response and I return as we're doing in line 16. Okay, we are also going to create a command to handle that. That is all that we need for authentication. Okay, so down the line, we're going to install the packages also. Now let's check the meeting controller. So we need to also create another controller, which is going to be for meeting. So let's do that. So with the meeting controller, we are also going to specify or inject the same thing here. That is the iSender. And in that here, user needs to be authorized. So from here, with this create meeting, before you can create meeting, in our client, we are generating private clients, right? So the same thing applies to this. We're going to send it and now create meeting command. We're going to create a command to handle that. And then if you want to return the response here, is here we return the custom response of create meeting response. We did that in the shared library for the meeting folder. Okay, the next thing is to get meeting. So get meeting by the host ID. And in that, we can also go ahead and create an endpoint to handle that, which takes an ID over here. And now when this is called, we want to send a query. Now this is get meetings query, which takes in a new with this host ID. We're going to specify that also. Okay, now once you have that, we're also going to look at for get recent meeting. Now with get recent meeting, it also should be an authorized route. So we need to specify that here. So when you look at this, all of these are authorized. So we can just put authorized attribute here once and for all, and then get rid of all these, which is going to work same. But let's maintain it here like this. Now we want to get recent meeting with the host ID. We're doing same, and we're going to call a query with the host ID, and you want to return the response. So this is what we need for our meeting controller to work. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to look at here is a Trilio controller. This Trilio controller is going to return a token to the user. Okay. So let's handle that as well. We're going to create another controller. And that is a Trilio controller. So we need to have it here. Now with this, it's going to take in a service. We're going to create a service which is going to be a Trilio service. Now this service will be responsible for generating the token. So in that, we need to have a method which is going to generate the token. And now this method should actually be anonymous method. Anyone can have access to it. Now you can see from here that we are taking identity, which is the user ID or the username. Let's say there's a username. And then we're going to have the meeting ID. And now with this, we take them as parameters. And we're going to pass on here to this generate service. So this generate meeting token, going to take in this username and then the password. And it's going to return a Trilio service response. And then we're going to check if it is accessed, do return with OK with a response, else then bad request with the same response. Okay, so that is what we need to do over here. Only a single method, an endpoint is needed here to generate the token. Okay, so now that we have this, we are going to create our features. Now these features you're going to have actually for authentication feature and also the meeting feature. Okay, so let's see. Now within the server, we're going to create a folder here. And now with this folder, we're going to create it as, name it as features. Now with these features, we're having two things here. First is authentication. And so let's have authentication for grouping purpose. Then we're going to have meetings as well. So we can also add another one as meeting. Now for authentication, we are going to look at how we can create user account. So for authentication, we're going to have a feature here as create user account. Now with this create user account, what do we need? We need to have our command. Then we're going to have our handler. So let me have my command here. Then I can have my handler too. Now, once I have this, I do not need to create a request because the request has been created and they are in the shared library. So I can go straight to that library and now reference it here and I'll move on with that. Okay. So with this command, we need to create a command. Let's right click on the command and I'll create a class which is going to be create user command. With this create user command, it's going to take in a create user request, which is going to be a record type, and then it takes in a create user request, and which takes in I request, and the response type is a create user response. So it is taking in this and it is coming out with this. Okay, so this is what we need to provide. Now when we install this mediator, we're going to get rid of this, so this issue will be gone. But this is how we're going to create our command. Now with our handler, we're going to also create a handler which is going to be a create user handler. So in a handler, let's go and create a handler in it. Now with this create user handler, it's going to take in, that is going to be a user manager. Now we're going to install that too, so don't worry. With this user manager, we're going to create an instance of this app user. We're going to create an instance of this identity user as app user. Then we can say this is user manager. And this should also return or inherit from iRequest handler. Now this iRequest handler, we pass in the create user command, and then we are going to return a create user response. So create user response, we have it here. Okay, so with this, we need to implement the interface here. But since we haven't installed the package, we are going to have some issue with that because this cannot implement this well. Okay, so let's install this package from here. Later down the line, we're going to install the necessary, all the rest of the packages which are needful in this. Now let's go and install this to user manager. We can install identity, ASNet code identity. So we need to also install this. So it is not this one. I think we should not install this. Let's get these packages, all the packages installed, so we can skip having all these issues. Now from our server, we check from our dependencies. So let's first get this. Okay, so we have this package. So let's right click on dependencies, go to manage NuGet packages, and then let's install the mediator. Aside from that, we need authentication, the generated bearer. Let's get this package installed. Then we need to install anti-framework call, identity.anti-framework call. Aside from that, we need EF call. Now for database, I decided to use SQLite, but well, you can use SQL Server. And then for migration purpose, let's add the tools. Now let's add identity model.token so we can generate tokens. Now let's add scalar so we can read our endpoint. And aside from that, we're going to be adding Trilio so we can, but that's the library, the third library that we need. So let's add this here. Yeah, so this, I think instead of installing it here, we install that in the client. We're going to remove it, or we should remove it from there because we don't need it there. We need it here. Okay, so these are the packages that we need. Now we can go back to our handler, and now with our user manager, let's see what we can get from. Okay, so use, we're still having this. Let's go and check. So these are the packages that we have. Okay. So now when we come back here, we can go ahead and use extension identity core user lookup version. And then with this, we can, so I request handler, we should get it from user lookup version. And then let's implement the interface here. Okay, so now we have this done. So first, what we're going to be doing here is you want to check if this is null. So from here, the request that we have, we're going to check in case it is null. In case it isn't, they're going to create a new app user. So that means we need to create this app user. And in order for us to do that, we need to check our, let's create a model. So from our server, we can just create folder here. And then models. Now with this model, we can go ahead and add a class where it's going to be app user. This app user is going to inherit from identity user. And now we're going to provide an extra property that we need because identity user does not have a user name. So that's the name, not the user name. It has username, but not user, not the name. So we want to add this to identity user. Okay. So once you have that, we go back to the command or the handler, and we can make reference of this. So that is the server.model. We go to the handler, and then, okay, so look at, I think there's an issue here, demo video app.client. Okay, so that client, and then that features. Does that mean we have the features here, right? Oh, okay, so the features are here, and that's wrong. The features should be in the server, yes. And then we should remove this from here. Oh, okay. That's the reason why we're having some issues. So that means from here, we need to remove mediator from this package. And also, I think that is so. Now, on the server, we have that installed. Okay, so we have the mediator over here. Then we have the others. Okay, I think that is the right thing to do. So let's close this. And now from the features that we have, authentication, then we have a command, create user command. it should be server, then features.command. Then we have the handler, should be the same thing. And then we can make reference to the models here and also with the commands as well. Okay, so we have this created. Now the next thing that we're going to do here after we are creating a new instance of this is we're going to create this user. So we're going to check if user already exists. We want to skip duplications, so let's make this as async. Then we want to create the user and then return a response. So create user and then return a response. Okay, so by doing so, we are done with creating a user account. Okay, now that we're done with this, we're going to talk about another feature, which is going to be login user. So from authentication, we're also going to create another folder, and just going to be login. Now with this login user, we're going to have in our command. Then we're going to have in our handler. So let's go and create our login command. So login user command. Now this command is going to take in a payload of login user request, and it's going to return a login response. Login user response. We did this, we've created this in the shared library ago. So we have that. Now let's go and write or create the handler, login user handler. So put that in the handler folder. And now with this, we're going to also be injecting user manager with app user. And I call it user manager. We also going to be adding appdb context. We haven't created that, but we create that soon. Appdb context. And then we also be going to be adding a token generator. So we're also going to generate token for that. And after that, we're going to have access to the iRequest. That is what we're going to inherit. So using mediator, we have a login command already created. So with this, we can use the command over here, and we can also use the response. Once we have this, we're going to implement the interface, and I already have this here. So that means we need to create our DB context, and in that we are going to create our infrastructure folder. Let's create our data folder in it, and then we can go ahead and add our appdb context class. Now within our appdb context class, it's going to inherit from identitydb context, and then we specify our appdb app user module that we created. Okay, and that we can create an option of this. So control period, we put it on here, and then you want to specify that with options. So we have this. Okay, and then we are going to add our meeting. Since you're going to be creating a meeting table, we have a meeting created. That means we need to create a meeting class. Okay, so we are not done. We're going to create that soon. So once we have our appdb context created, we can go ahead with the login handler and then do it here. And then also we need to generate token. So we need to generate or create this as a helper class to help us create a token. So let's go and add folder to this, and that's going to be a helper. So within this, we can go ahead and check if Moodle is null. So we do that with this line. In case it is null, you want to throw an exception for that. In case it isn't, then you want to find user by email, and I'll check if user is there or not. So this should be an async. Then we're checking it over here. So we want to find by email. And in case it isn't, we want to return this login response. Okay. So within here, we need to pass in null for the GWT token. And also the next thing that we're going to be doing after we are checking, we want to check for the password. So we do that, and still if the password do not match, we want to return same. But in case they do match, then what are we going to do? We want to get a claims whereby you specify the name, the ID, the name, and the email. And then we're going to have two private methods. Now, this method is going to generate a token. Now, this method generates a token and pass on what? That is the claims that we have. Now, with this, this method is coming from the helper that we created, token generator. So this is going to give us the token over here. And now we can check if this token is null, then what can we do? We can still return something. But with this, it's not be null. So after using this, we want to return this token to the user. So we can say that, hey, go in there and I return this. And I'll pass on this token to this. So we are going to have the token, then we're going to have the success, which is going to be true. And then we're going to have maybe login made successfully, something like that in here. Okay, so now that we are good with our login, we're going to try to build this project and I'll test only this login. Okay, so let's check our controller to see whether we have all set. So with this create user command control period, we can use the namespace for this and also for that. Now let's see from this, we're going to rebuild solution, and after this works, we're going to apply migration. It seems you're having an issue here with this iSender, with the namespace Trilio, and I think okay, so we need to get this from here. And aside from that, let's check the errors and fix them. Let's check the next one. I send the control period. We need to use mediator and also create meeting command. We are not done with that. So unless we are done with our meeting command, then with this what we're going to be doing, we can just go ahead and now comment, or when we are done with create meeting, we'll come back and do that and comment it. Okay, let's see the next one. Trilio service. We haven't created a Trilio service yet. So that's the reason why we haven't such error. Now, don't worry, you're going to comment it. After we are done, we come back and, and do same. Yes, meeting, comment that too. Okay, let's go and build solution. All right, so that is done. Let's go and set the server, and then let's go and add migration. We make sure we choose the server as a default project. So we're going to pass on add migration. Now with this migration, give it a name, then output, we can specify we have an infrastructure folder, and in that we have data folder. Open it and now add migrations, create migrations folder, and now put all the migration files in it. Okay, so we have an issue here. So we haven't registered AppDB context. So we have to quickly do that. Now let's go and create our connection string in the app settings. So maybe we grab this, we go to our app settings over here, and then let's have our connection string. That is a video conference db.db. That is all we need. Aside from that, we need to register that. So from your program.cs file, let's register database setup from here. So we have this registered. Aside from that, we're going to also be registering identity. So we have also this registered, and then we're going to be registering authentication, which is going to be a JWT. Okay, so in that, let's have our JWT setup, and in that we specify all the default schemes and the challenge schemes, and in that we need to add this. So once you're here, we're going to add JWT bearer, which takes in the options, so with these options, we are going to specify these as the options. Remember that here we want to validate issuer audience, sign-in key, lifetime, and then we're going to set the clock queue to 0. We want to validate the issuer, so we want to get the issuer from this section, and then we want to set expire time, and then we want to get our key from here. So all these we need to specify that in the appsetting.json section. Okay, good. Now that we are good with that, we can add this authorization service, and then maybe we can decide to add cost. So let's add cost to this also, so that later down the line we do not forget it. We create cost here, and now with this cost, you see we are adding a policy. We're going to give it a name, and then we want to specify our client base address. So we want to get it from the configuration too, then allow credentials, so we can pass token to the header. Once we're done with this, we are going to add the middleware pipeline. So let's add scalar. We map the scalar, we also add course. And then let's use authentication and authorization too. We have them here, so we can use these. Okay, I think we have all these registered nicely. The next thing that we're going to be doing is, let's check from the app settings, we need to specify our GWT section. So from this app settings here, let's have a GWT section with a key, and the issuer should be 7071. I think so. We can confirm it from our properties, launch settings, and here 707170. Okay. All right, so we are good. Now we can rebuild project. And let's go and add migration again after this successfully done. So let's grab this. And then let's update the database. Okay, that is done. Let's go and run the server only and check this out. Okay, so we have an issue here saying that the client base address should not be null. We need to specify that. So client base address, we go to the app settings here, and then let's go and check for our base address. So from the client properties, line settings, and which is 7116, let's update that. Now let's rerun that. It seems our app is ready, but we are not seeing that. Let's check from our solution, and then from the service, from the server, line settings in here. Let's check it. From HTTPS, launch browser, set this to true, and then let's have our launch URL, which is going to be a scalar, and then v1. Let's try this and see. So we have that here. We're going to create account and I'll log in. Let's test with the create. So we specify the email address, which is an admin. And let's add password. So here, if I click on send, we have an issue That is, we have not registered a mediator, so we can keep this. Let's go to our code and do that. Let's hop into our program.cs file. So in here, we can go ahead and put that down here. So we're going to say builder.services.add mediator event. We want to configure from this program this file assembly. Now, aside from that, we have created some services. So we need to actually, that is a helper, iToken generator, which we need to register that. So we have this also registered. Okay. So this is what we have for now. And I think we are good. Let's rerun this again. All right, so you can see that from here we are good. You have new user created. Now we can grab same email and password. Let's hop into the login and see whether we're going to have access to our token. So we have the token over here with this response type. Okay, great. So this is working. Now let's see, we're going to run this. We're going to run our Blazor as well, and then try to log in, make an API call with that, and see whether we're going to log in or not. So let's configure startup project, click on multiple, and in here we want to start. That is the server, start the server client. You want to start the client. Let's save it, and then let's go and hit on start. So we're going to log in and see, but first of all, let's make sure we have our network tab open. Then we have admin already created. So we're going to check and see. So we are connected to the API, but let's see. From this, we have our no content. The response is none. Let's see. So 7170 API and now the auth and login. Let's check the endpoint actually and see. So here it is 7170 API auth and login, username and password. Okay, so this is correct. Now from the preview, let's check from this the payload. Okay, yeah, so we have it. Now there is a response. We have a token over here, and then we having this issue. So when that is from the dashboard 252, let's check it. Dashboard page, go to 252. So this is null over here. Okay, let's see whether we have this set in the local storage. So we have this set in local storage, right? So that is this one. Now we having this. So let's put a breakpoint here when the page initializes, and then we're going to relog in and see what it's talking about. So we have it hit. Then, so user authenticated from here. And let's see if we can have access to the claims. So there's a result from this. Okay, user is false. Okay, so I think this should supposed to execute line 245. Is user is not indicated, but it has trespassed and it has gotten to this place. Because when you check this user, let's see from this state, so it has a result. User authenticated, that is set to false. Okay, so that is false here, and it should not move to the next one. So maybe we can get the user. Whilst this is running again, we need to add authorize to this app.razor. Okay. All right, so we have this, and I think let's rerun this again. Demo. Then these are server models. So in the create meeting request, in order for us not to send an empty model, we can use this built-in required attribute on top. Since we are not having much request, that's the reason why we are not implementing validation from using the Fluent validation. But well, we want to do this. You can, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and create a custom validation using the Fluent package and attach to this. And also, once you have this attribute added on top of each property, we need to go to the component and include this by data annotation component as well. So let's hop into the dashboard page, and within our model component that we created, which has the meeting model, we need to include the validation here. So on top, we include data annotation, and now for each we can include this validation message. So we can grab this one, and here we're going to look up for date picker. So with this date picker, we can just have same, and this is going to be for start date. And then we're going to have same for end date. So that is the start time. Let's go to the next one. And then let's have a look with the description. So if you want to make sure you specify value in the description, that is where you can enforce this. Else you can make this optional. And I think that is it. So now when you run this, let's say we're going to run only the UI. And let's check this out. Yeah, I believe there's an issue here. This annotation should come here in the edit form. So that is the right place to put this. Yeah, you can see that from here we have our dashboard. Since we are logged in, we are straight to our dashboard, and then we are having error connecting to server. This is a response from the service that we created. Okay, now in here, if I click on schedule meeting, I'm going to have all these. If I click on create, that is where I should get these annotations, but I'm not getting that. Should have these error messages, but you can see from here I'm not getting that. So let's go and check it again from our create meeting request. That is what we have. Okay, we're having this meeting model, and we need to have this required attribute also specified on top of this, so we can make sure that the form is going to use that. So now we can rerun this again and check it out again. So if I click on schedule meeting and now click on this, you can see we have all these validations that I need to provide. Yes, and it will not allow me to pass it on if the object is null. All right, so that is what. Now if I go to the inspect, go to the application here. Now within local storage, if I decide to clear the token from this and then refresh this page, it's going to navigate me to the login because I am kicked out. I don't have the token, so I go to the login and I cannot come back to the dashboard. Let's wait and see. So here I'm having not authorized and I am not kicked. So maybe I can just go to the dashboard and I'll check in case I'm not authorized, then send to the login. Okay, but let's see from here. If I go to the home page, and then I'm going to try to log in, and after logging in, let's see whether it's going to navigate us to the dashboard. All right, so I have error connecting to the server, and you can see this does not affect the application. The server is not active, and it did not affect this one, right? So that is the way to handle the UI. Okay, so let's go and run the server here. So the server is active. Now let's go and inspect this, click on this, and now let's execute this. So we are having this login call make, and there's going to be a response, and there's a response here. Login made successfully. We have a token, but here we still have an authorized. Now when we refresh this, let's see whether we are still unauthorized. We still have a token here. So you can see that with this, we are logged in, meaning that as soon as we log in, we need to refresh the page or load to this, and I will refresh the page. Now let's check from the landing page. So from the solution, you go to our landing page here, and from this handle login, as soon as we set this user authentication state with the token, we want to navigate to the dashboard, and then let's set this refresh the page to true. So this is going to refresh the page, and now this is going to get the current user authenticated. The same thing applies to when the user clicks on log out and also navigate to login. We want to set this to true so we can reload the page, and then user will be kicked out. Now with this, I think we are good. We can reload this once more, and I'll test this before we move on. So we're going to log out. And as soon as we log out, you can see we are kicked out, and we're going to drop at the login page. And our API is also already active. So when we logged out, we're going to log in again, and I'll see whether we're going to navigate to the dashboard. Now log in. And now, yes, of course, we can see that we are navigated to the dashboard. Okay, so our authentication is working, and we can now authorize the user when he logs in. That's great. But here our server is open, but we can still not connect. Can still not get access to the server. Why? Let's go and put a breakpoint in the service. And now let's check it. So we right click on this, go to inspect. And then in here, let's reload. Okay, so we are hit. Then we're going to make a call here. Now let's see. So from this response, let's see the result that we have in here, 404, minutes not found. Okay, so we want to return this. So not found, and we are getting this. Okay, so that's the reason why we having that. Okay, so let's check from our controller, which is a meeting controller. So when you go to your service, no, that is a server, and here check the meeting controller from this. You can see that we commented all the endpoints, so that's the reason why we have this 404. This 404 here is not coming from our service. So let's uncomment them. Then we're going to be creating our commands. Let's also go to the Trilio controller, and then let's uncomment this. Okay. So now we are done with this. We're going to handle the meeting, and here we're going to have a feature of create meeting. Now with this, we need to create command and handler. So let's go and create our command. Now with this create meeting command, we're going to specify it, as you can see, a create meeting request, and then it's going to be a record which is going to inherit from this I request. Now the response type is a create meeting response. You've created that already. Now let's go and create our handler to handle this. Now within our handler, we're going to be using appdb context. Aside from that, we can also use the I configuration. And then this is going to inherit from I request handler, which takes in a command and then our response. We need to implement this. And then with the implementation that we have here, we're first going to generate our meeting ID. So with this meeting ID, we're going to check, let's say, let's write a method which will assist us in generating meeting ID. I'm going to convert a new guild and then to byte array, and then I'm going to replace / a plus sign and equal sign in case it does have any. I'm going to remove that here. Okay, then I'm going to also generate the link for this. I want to have another private method to generate the link. So from here, I take in the meeting ID and then the passcode. I get the base address, and now /join meeting, pass in the meeting ID as parameter and also the passcode as parameter. Then I'm going to generate the meeting passcode from here. I have a simple method to generate the meeting passcode. So there's going to be a private. Then it's a string which is going to generate passcode. And now with this is going to be the string of characters that I want to use for. So that's an ABCD up to 0 to 9, right? These are the characters, and I'm going to use this random number generator to create this a byte of 4, and then I'm going to loop through that to get unique passcode all the time. I want to convert it into date so I can get new value all the time, and in that I want to just return it in this format. So by doing so, I can get a passcode. Now this passcode is going to look something similar to this. Okay, so like this. Okay, so now that I have all this implemented, we are going to handle that. Let's check if meeting is null, so we can throw this exception if null, or we can also use if meeting is null, then do return a meeting response here. Now this response, this should be an async, and then we want to return this. We want to check if the date, there's just a simple check that I am doing. I want to make sure that the meeting that you are creating, right? The meeting that you're creating, the date, the start date, and now the end date. Maybe the start date is greater or equal to today, and now the end date is not lesser than the start date. So that's the checks that I am doing here to just confirm. So maybe I can put this next line so you can see it well. Then I'm going to return new of this. In case there's any issue with it, I'm going to return an instance of this create meeting response. In case everything is in order, then I'm going to generate this meeting ID, call this ID, and that is all. And I'm going to create, we're going to create a meeting in Trilio. So we're going to call this Trilio service. Then the service that you're going to create, you're going to have a method of create room. And now we're going to create room with that, with this meeting ID as our room name. And then this is going to return success or a response. Now you can check from this in case this response is also well, then that is in case it is true. But here you can see we are negating this, so we are checking if this is false, then we want to return this response. But in case it isn't, then we're going to populate this meeting model and then save it to the database. So let's say in case everything is in order, then go and populate a meeting model. We need to create a meeting over here. I think so let's go and create this meeting, and this should be created in the models folder. We have a model, so we're going to create another one which is going to be a meeting. That is what you're going to be using to store the meeting that the user is going to create, or the admin is going to add to the system. Okay, so within that, we are going to be having a lot properties here under this meeting. Let's look at this. We have an ID, meeting ID, passcode, host ID, title, description, start time, start date, end date, the link. And I want to say, is this meeting completed? So switching this on and off, or true or false, we'll just switch between the recent meeting and our current or upcoming meeting. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and include the property here as meeting. So the reason why we are not having this is, you see from here, we are saying that this is meeting. So that's the reason why we are not getting that. Okay. So maybe we can say meetings, and then when we come here, we can go ahead and I'll make reference to this meeting model. I'm sure we need to check that and fix it. So meetings, create handler, then. So we need to make sure we check all these meetings. And then we make sure we also specify meetings here. Okay. Now with the command that we have meetings and great. And also with the handler, we must also have same. So create meeting. So that means with the response that we have here, we need to also check that this is going to give us issues. So maybe this is what we can do. With this, we can say that this is meeting feature. Then with this, we can go and update this here. And then let's update the command. And that will be all. So this response is still going to be using meetings over here, and we can get rid of this. Okay, so now this is solved. When check our command, create meeting request, it should use same, then should also same. Okay. Then here we're going to create our model for this. Then after we are done creating this with our passcode and the ID generated, we can go ahead and save it or persist it to the database. So we generate the link, and that is a meeting link. We pass in a meeting ID and the passcode. The reason why we need to get this is, we need to generate the passcode first, and then we take the passcode and the meeting ID to generate the link. So this is going to be the last part. Okay. Now in a DB context, we should make this meeting table. So that's the reason why we're doing that. And then we add a meeting, and then we're going to save the table, and they're going to return instance of this create meeting response. Okay, good. Now let's create a feature for get meeting. So now we have the create meeting, and let's have a get meeting. Now with the get meetings, we're going to create our this is going to be our query. So we're going to say this is get meeting query. And now with this get meeting query, we need to specify get meetings request. So this request, we can either specify it straight from here, like the string host ID. Here, this will work. Okay. Or we can create a command and then pass it on here. Or let's say a class and then pass it on here. But I think if this works, then we can stick to that. So let's have this, and now this is going to inherit from I request. So I request, and as this is going to return get meeting response. Okay. Now we're going to create our handler. So this is going to inherit from this iRequest handler with the query and the response type. Let's go and implement the interface. So here you want to get all meetings. Get all meetings by the specific host. Now let's have async. And then this is a request. So this request has host ID. So we want to check if this the meetings that we are specifying here, that's the host ID, get the table and now search for all meetings which have this host ID is equal to what we are specifying. Now we need to inject our AppDB context. Then we can check from here in case it's null. Then we don't want to proceed at all. But in case it isn't, then we're going to populate it. We populate from this by getting this host ID. And then we get it as a list. And we're going to return this custom response type of get meeting response. This data here is an enumerable or list of get meetings. So we can pass it on here and have this a message, maybe meetings, maybe 12 meetings found. You can actually customize this message and pass on any information that you want the user to be aware of. Okay, so that is that one. Now let's look at how we can get recent meetings. So we create a folder, get recent meetings, and in that we're going to create our query to handle that. And there's going to be a record type, and it's going to take in same host ID. Now with this host ID is going to return a response, and that is a response of get meeting recent meeting response. Let's go and create a handler. Now with this handler, we're going to inject our AppDB context. And you're also going to inherit from this iRequest handler, which takes in the query and also the response type. So we're having this recent meetings query, and that is what we created over here. Okay, so this should be a query. Now when we go to the handler, we can use this. And also we want to check if the meeting belongs to this user and it is completed. That is where you want to return it at recent meeting. So we checking that. Then we do same as we did. If this is null, you want to return that. In case it isn't, then populate it as a list. And then the next thing that we're going to be doing is we want to return it over here. So you can see that each feature has all the things it needs in order to work. And then return it over here. And that is all for this get recent meeting. So here we've created 3 features or 3 slides here with the get meetings, get recent meeting, and our create meeting. Now let's check the meeting controller. And now here, create meeting command, we're going to get access to it. With the get meetings query, we do not need to specify any new. All that we're going to be doing is passing the host ID, and that is all. Get recent meeting, we're also going to include the namespace. No new is needed. We need to specify the ID, and that is all for this. So we are done with our controller. Okay, so the next one that we're going to tackle is a service, the Trilio service. Let's see how we can create that to generate a token for the user. So within that, we're going to the infrastructure, and I'm going to create a service in there. Now let's create an interface. And I'll call it Trilio service. We're having only one method for now. I think not one, but we're going to have 2. That is to create. Okay, so to create room, let's implement this method. Now with this, we're going to be injecting configuration here. So maybe this is what we can do. We can create a constructor for this, and then we can pass on configuration in here. So let's first create private variables to hold our account ID, our API key, our secret key, and also our authentication token. As soon as you create an account in Trilio, you're going to have access to this. So I'm going to show you how you can do it. Let's create an constructor for this, and now inject our configuration in here, and then we're going to create a section known as Trilio. We're going to specify all these as keys so we can grab them and now store them here. Okay, so once we have that, we can go and initialize this Trilio client. We specify the account ID and an authentication token. Now for the generate token, we are going to create a grant. So let's see how we're going to work with that. So when you look at this, we're going to create a grant, and we're taking a hash set of iGrant interface. And here we're going to have a video grant, and we're going to specify the room name here. So the room name, we're making it as a meeting ID. And then after this, we want to create a token. Now with the token that we're going to create, we're going to specify this token as a model from the Trilio. It takes in an account ID, the API key, the secret key, the identity, and also the grant that we have created. So this identity here, it is a user name. We need to provide that. And at the end, we want to return the data here, which is going to come from this token. And we want to grab to JWT. It's going to convert that into JWT so we can return it to the user for the video connection. Okay, so that is what we need to do here. Okay, that is all. So with this, we need to also go to the meeting handler, actually the create meeting handler, and that is where we injected the Trilio service. So here, it means with the Trilio service, we can grab this and we can inject that. And that is all. So we can now go ahead and create room with the meeting ID. Also, when we check from the Trilio controller that we created, we need the interface also here. Let's include that, and then we can generate the token and I'll return the response to the user. So now that we are done with this, let's go to the program.cs file, and in there we need to register the Trilio service as scope. So you register this as scope. And also we need to add this to the configuration section. In the app setting.json, we're going to be adding the Trilio service section. So we're going to provide the account SID, the API key, the API secret, and now the authentication token. Okay, so now that we are good here, let's go and rebuild this project. So now it is a time for us to get access to this Trilio service, right? So hop into your browser, trilio.com/login. Try to log in. If you don't have an account, then go and sign up. Follow the prompts or the steps to create an account. Okay, so from this, I'm going to log in with this. Now, when you log in, I'm going to provide my password too over here. Now, let's wait for the verification to be done and then provide my password. Click on continue so I can log in. Now, when I am logged in, let's see the dashboard. That is from the console.trilio.com. That is going to be the dashboard that I'm going to land on. And in here, you can just navigate to developer section. And you know, when you create account here, you're going to be having, I think, $16 for this trial if you're a developer. So I have used mine, and that is what I have now. Okay, so yeah, I'm here, and you know, as soon as you do that, you're going to have your account info, and this is going to be your access account SID, and then you're going to have your token also here. So you're going to copy this account SID and now the authentication token. Aside from that, you're going to can just click on the account dashboard, or just click on go to API keys, because you're going to be using an API key, so you can also connect. So you click on the API keys and you are here, and then when you come here on the same API keys and token, you know, I have mine. So I have my live credential, account SID, and I have the key here. So click on create API key. Now when you click on that, it's going to navigate you to a page whereby it will give you the access to create that. So over here, let's wait. Yes, so provide a name, and now the key type. If it is standard or main, you can choose standard for that. Then the region over here, now the friendly name, and click on create. So when you check mine, I have created one already, and that is what I have been using for this demo. So when you do that, after creating, you're going to see it here. Let's wait for this page to load. Then I'll show you. So that is the API key, the SID over here. So you can just grab this. This is my demo video conference, and that's my SID. So I'm going to grab this over here. Okay, so these are the keys that you will need, because when you check the configuration, you need the account SID, the API key, the secret, and the token. So you have all. Just grab them and I'll paste them here. Good. So now that we are done, I think we can start the application. Do we have anything that we haven't completed it? I think we've included everything. So let's rebuild the full solution. So before we run this to test this out, we need to add migration, because you know we just added a database table, and that is the meeting in the AppDB context. So let's go and add migration to that. All right, so that is done. Now we're going to run this and test this out. So with our API that we have, in order for us to get a response, we should provide a host ID and now the token, right? So let's go and log in from here. Now the response that we're going to receive, we're going to get only the token and add it to the header before we make a call to the meeting controller. So let's grab the token from here. And also we need to provide an ID for user. And then for the ID, I have an ID here. So maybe we can grab this ID. Okay, and now we're having a message here as no meeting found, meaning it's successful. Now let's check our client. Yes, so you can see we are not having error connection to the server. We rather have no meeting found and now no recent meeting found, meaning they are through with the server connectivity. Okay. Now with this, we need to provide a room name. Now this is going to happen in the Trilio API. So with this, after a room is created successfully, we're going to have a room ID. So we can use room resource from this Trilio. We're going to be using with this video res.video.v1 for version 1. And then here we want to specify the room type as group. We want to check or add a unique name, which is going to be the room name, because since we are coming in with GUID, it's going to be unique all the time. We can also specify a number of participants that you want to have in the room. So when you do that, the Trilio API will not allow more than this number that you're going to specify as participant or attendee to do it. And do you want to record participant on Connect? We want to set this to 4 since we are building a simple video conference app. Okay, so after this, when a room is created, you're going to have a room SID. In case it is not, meaning the room isn't created, but in case it is, then you can say that room is created. So here we are returning this. That is if room ID or if SID here is not equal to now, mean room is created, so we can get access to room status as in progress, and then we can return the status of true. But in case it isn't, then we're doing this as well. All right, so now that we have this, we're going to run this again and check this out. All right, so we see from here we are having notification, and this notification is saying that meeting created. Okay, so we now have this meeting. When we check our Trilio's API, this meeting ID will be created there as a room. And also when we check our database, we have this in the table, meeting table form. We have our passcode. You see that's what we're going to be using to connect. Then we have our start date and time, as you can see, and that is the link, as you can see from here. Okay, so now this meeting that we have, you can go ahead and now start this. But before we do it, let's click on this. Let's copy this. So once that we are done copying the link, you can see the link here contains the meeting ID and also with the passcode, right? So let's go and start this meeting. Since we are running debugging mode, that's the reason why we're having that. So let's continue on. And now from this, we're having an issue. We can check it. So it is saying could not found this method. Yes, of course. I think we forgot to define this method. Let's check it again from. Then let's go to our www folder. Check from your JS folder where you have this Trilio.video.js. So down here, after we've defined all this method, okay, so let's expose this. So we forgot to add this. So windows.twiliovideo.connect to room, and that is what the service will be calling. So you must provide same. All right, so now that we have this, let's go and run it again. So we have an issue because I think the token has expired. 15 minutes. Let's log out. So let's start the meeting again. And you can see that it is asking you to use your microphone and your camera. So I'm going to click on allow and let's wait and see. So my camera is on, the light is on now, and I must see myself. So we can just check from the inspect, then check here and see whether we have any issue with it. So I think the camera is on, but the view is not popping up. Maybe we can check it well again. Okay, so let's go to the code again and check it. So we're navigating to the dashboard, not the meeting page. That is a meeting component. So go to your clients and then let's check this meeting page. That is where we're doing that. So we have this container ID. So you first set this page opacity to 0. And then after we initialize it, we call the API. Then we start the meeting, and then we set this to 1. Let's see. Let's put a breakpoint here, and then let's go back and reload this page. So the breakpoint is hit, and then let's move on. So we show loader. Start from that, you want to get each user. You want to get the name. So we have the name here that we provided, and it's part of the token. So what is the name? That's an admin. We're going to be calling this to get a token. And now let's see. From this, we have token generated successfully, and that is our token. So we can come here. Now with this, we have this service. We're going to specify the room ID to join the meeting. And now our camera is on. So let's go and check. We have the token over here. We have the room ID. And then we have the container ID. So that's the host video container. Now we're going to set loader to false. And then the page opacity is going to be 1. Okay, so that should make this div visible. And that is it. So when we check our video, I think we should see response here. Now it is saying you have left the room, so meaning you are disconnected. So it seems like the camera is on, but it cannot add a track to the DOM. Maybe we can separate the video and add the audio track, and then add the video track to the DOM. So maybe let's try that. From our Twilio API, or not the Twilio video.js file, we can go in there and then have our video track. So here we can go and extract, because here we are having 2 tracks, audio and video. Let's go and extract only the video track, and then we can check if video track here is not null. So let's say video track. Then we can go in and add this. So you add track to DOM, and then we're going to specify this video track and add the container ID over here. Now when we come to this add DOM, we have the track and a container ID. It's going to get this container ID. If it does exist, it's going to attach it and then append child. Okay, so I think let's go and try this again. So let's grab the link again. Start meeting. Okay, so let's uncheck this and continue. Yes, and there it's on now. So we have been able to attach the video to the DOM, and now we have the video here. Now the link that we copied, we're going to open that in another tab and see whether we can connect. to this. So I have this here. I'm going to paste this. That is a link. I'm going to paste it here. And now this is navigating to the joint meeting. I think continue with this first. And it is connecting here. So we wait to see. The reason why we're having this is we should run this not in debug mode. That's the reason why. So when this works, the next running is going to happen in normal mode. We're going to skip this. So let's continue on. So this is also on. Then we are here. Continue on. Let's keep continuing. Okay, so with this, for this to join, we're having an issue. I think we can cross-check. Let's inspect it. Check from the console. And it's saying that object of the type join meeting page does not have a property matching with the name passcode. Okay, so let's say we go to the, let's stop all this. Okay, now let's check from this join meeting component or the page that is from the user join meeting page. And I'm here, we're having this meeting passcode, but when you check here, we are saying just passcode. Okay, so let's now run with this. Start without debugging. So let's start this, and that's going to clear that errors that we normally see. It's going to remove that. So let's grab the link, and then we're going to start this meeting. And now allow. So when you check from this inspect tab, check from this console, and it is saying that this video has been appended to the track. So this is a video element that we have. This is appended dynamically. So we have that here. Good. Now this is our video. You can see it. Now let's go and join. So with the same tab that I opened earlier on, with this, we're going to reload this track. And this is now going to join meeting with the meeting ID and our passcode. Now you can see we have a pop-up and it is asking us to put in our name. So with this, I think I should not maximize that. Let's say this is attendee, or let me just use a name at all, Frederick, and then click on join meeting. And it's also asking you to use camera and microphone. So allow this time, and I can see my mic is now on. So you can see from here, yes. So we are seeing the feedback. But the dialog here is not off. You saw that, right? Yeah, so we have this a client video over here. Just that, I'm having one camera which is not working well. So that's the reason why we are not seeing that. But you can see it worked. So we have been able, and as you can see from here, participant connected, that is Frederick, right? So the name that I provided, that is what's going to be using for my identity. So I have it over here, and that track is off now. Okay, so you can see I am disconnected, and as soon as I wait for that, you see you have it, participant disconnected. So my name and my video has been removed over here. Amazing. All right, so the last thing that we're going to be working at, if I click on connect or join, I should not see the dialog, right? So that's the issue that we need to fix it up. So let's go and do that from our source. We can have it from here. Let's check from our demo project. And in there, we go into this join meeting. From the user, join meeting. And in here, you can see that the first time the user connects and initialize, you want to set this mode to true so the user can provide our staff the name. As soon as the user clicks on this connect, we want to set this to false. And that is it. Congratulations, friends. So if you're having any issue with this, you can let me know and I'll attend to you. Thank you for taking this course, and I believe you've learned something and you've enjoyed it as I enjoyed teaching you as well. All right, so I'm going to catch up again. So then, take care.